There we go. Thank you, Jillian. I didn't even have to say start the recording. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is a Sprague Subcommittee of the MARB, and it is February 24th, and the time is 12:35. And we do have a quorum. I'm Kimberly Kennison. I'm the designee for Secretary McCaw, and with me today is Christine Shaw, who is the designee for Treasurer Wooden. Thank you all for joining us. I do not have any opening remarks. I guess I do have one. And that is, I don't intend that our meeting will run till 2 o'clock. I would be surprised if it did, because the agenda isn't that heavy, and the superintendent always does a great job of filling us in detail on the budget that's going to be presented today. So, Christine?
I have no other opening remarks. Thank you, Ms. Kennison.
Thank
Good
you,
afternoon, all.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November the 18th subcommittee. If I could get a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mark.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Christine. Any discussion?
It's a sad statement of what's happening. I don't think it impacts as much the political propaganda of the war.
Christine, we're getting some back noise. Thank you. And any discussion? All right, I hear none. Then all in favor, since there's 3 of us, we can just say yay. Aye.
Aye.
There's something wrong that's occurring right now.
Oh, Christine, you have a question?
Yes, so
Sorry.
this is a meeting that took place in November.
Yes.
I'm going to abstain, given that I was not in attendance at the meeting.
Okay. All right. So we have 2 yays and 1 abstain. All right, thank you. The minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is the review and the discussion of the Board of Education's 2023 budget. Superintendent Hall.
Be glad to go over it with you.
Thank you.
The overview on the package that we gave you is really on page 2. This gives you the dollar increase, where we are with certified staff, non-certified staff, also things that are driving the budget, and also the major reductions that we have. So I'll just review those really quick, and I'll also add that there's some wild cards out there that we're dealing with after the budget was approved by the Board of Ed. The board was this was approved in January by the board. It's a 1.6% increase, which it really is $108,554 increase. Our staff counts for certified staff are stable at 28.9 FTEs. Our non-certified staff is actually a decrease of 1.5 FTEs. And the major budget drivers that we have that we were accounting for when we put the budget together were special ed, public high school tuition, which went up by $135,000. Our elementary education tuition went up by $79,000, almost $80,000. Some software and non-educational things that are not part of the education package, but also back office, up by $23,000. And our magnet school tuition and schools of choice up by almost $21,000. Our budget decreases. Our high school tuition regular ed down by $127,000. Our health insurance benefits by $44,000. However, we're going to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about some of the wild cards that are out there. Our high school special ed private tuition down by $21,000, And we redid our bus contract last year, which produced a savings of almost $18,000. So the wild cards are health insurance. We are part of the state partnership plan. The state partnership plan put a memo out that a majority of us interpreted as they were doing really well. They were going to put ARP money into the fund, and therefore insurance would be a decrease. However, that's not how many of us interpreted it that way. Thank goodness we didn't take a cut. We funded it at 0% increase. We now have been told, no, expect trend, which is anywhere from 8 to 9%. Which for us accounts for an additional about $35,000 extra dollars. Although health insurance is hard because we will have some new staff coming in. And of course, you're not comparing apples to apples. Who knows what new staff will take in insurance.
Right.
Other kind of wild cards out there. Nobody anticipated at the time that we put the budget together that oil would be above $100 a barrel. We bought our oil early last year, but we anticipated it going up. However, it may, when we anticipated it going up, we didn't anticipate $100 a barrel. The other, and that also has to do with fuel for our buses, due to the fact that we pay for the fuel for our buses and that transport our kids. We just paid for propane. Propane doubled in the amount this year that we're paying, from $11,000 to $22,000 for one fill up. So energy costs are really rearing their head. And the other thing that we have that is a wild card for us is we are currently in mediation with our non-certified staff. We, in fact, 15 minutes before this meeting, I met with the union president for non-certified. We believe that we have the language for the contractual language agreed to. It's really about now just dollars and cents about where and we're putting an increase. So I'm meeting with our negotiation committee next week to discuss what we're going to do in mediation. Their union is almost adamant that they want to go to arbitration. And we're trying to say, no, we're very close. Why would we go to arbitration, spend a whole lot of money when we believe we can settle this without going to arbitration? Those are kind of the highlights of things. I'll entertain any questions that anybody has.
Well, good luck with the collective bargaining side, and hope that it doesn't lead to that and that you're able to resolve it.
Yeah, the difference between mediation and arbitration is about 50 grand. Mm-hmm. So with
probably the same results.
Sometimes worse.
Right.
And that we keep on telling that to union. It's all last best offers, and just because we offered you this doesn't mean necessarily you're going to get it in arbitration.
Right.
The major problem we have in negotiation is we need to get our employees to $15 an hour by the end of next year. Okay. Many of those are substantially under that.
Thank you for the overview. I do have a question related to the legal services on behalf of the Board of Education.
Sure.
I appreciate you providing some of the historical figures, and it looks as if there are years where there's a fairly substantial increase, then it goes back down. I'm wondering if those years where the legal expenses are as much as 4 times the prior year, whether that relates or correlates to contract negotiations or other anticipated events where legal expenses are likely to rise?
We don't anticipate them rising. Some of that had to do with negotiations, protracted negotiations. Some of that also, this is going to come out wrong, and I don't mean it to, by inexperienced superintendents who tend to be quick on the telephone with asking questions to lawyers.
Not realizing that the meter is running.
The meter is running from the minute they pick up the phone.
That's right.
So what I've always tried to do, and is, it works sometimes, is unless it's an emergency, I don't make that phone call. I try to group everything together, because 15 minutes of answers, you're going to get billed in 15-minute increments anyways. So just put it all together and then get those questions answered.
So those 2 years are really outliers going back to 2015, and you don't expect another up year? Okay.
I believe they are.
Good to know. Thank you.
Other questions?
Superintendent, is this budget in line with the 5-year plan for the Board of Ed side of the plan?
It's 0.1% over. The 5-year plan was 1.5.
Okay.
However, we can make up that small difference because next year, if you look at the proposal, our ECS funding is going up.
Okay.
So it's actually 1.1% over what we're supposed to do. However, if you net out ECS, it's probably a small decrease.
Okay. Mark, any questions?
No, the only issue that I would ask of the superintendent is on your budget drivers. The elementary school tuition and special ed, I assume, and elementary school tuition for magnet. So I assume it's one is specific to special ed and the other one is specific to regular ed. And what are the numbers? Do you have it off the top of your head? What in those two areas now, the numbers of students I'm talking about that are reflective, that reflect the 79,000 and the 20,000.
I don't have that right off my head, but it's probably, I'm going to guess, in the narrative, which is what we sent out.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So it should be there. If it's not, then email me and I'll get you those numbers.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm still trying to absorb all of it because it's so much information. I know we get another stab.
While there's a brief pause, Kim, can you?
Thank you.
Do you see if there's? Do you see Sal in the waiting room? I'm not seeing that, and he's trying to get in.
Oh boy. No, I do not see.
I don't see anything. Usually,
I don't see him, Julian.
Okay, thanks.
We can call him in, Julian.
That's what I was going to try next.
Okay.
I'll let him know.
Severe stomach pain or allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Tell your provider about.
Sorry, Christine, we can hear your background.
Sorry, I've been watching the Ukrainian developments.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Superintendent, when we look at the change from I call it the base budget, and you're adding in the grants, and the net change in paid teachers is 83,000, with the majority of it, it's being covered by the grants. Are those grants one-time grants that are covering that increase?
In those one-time grants, like the ESSER grants and the
Yeah.
ARP grants, we work really hard not to put certified teachers in there.
Okay.
So they
Yeah.
would be in things like Title I funding, which is sustained over time. We have put some non-certified people into those ESSER funds, knowing that the cliff is coming.
Yeah.
And we anticipate probably losing people because an interventionist usually doesn't stay long, and they're looking for a teaching job, so they'll get a teaching job, and we hope not to have to pay unemployment.
Hi, Matt.
I'm on Sal channel finally.
Thank you, Sal. Matt, did you have trouble getting in too, or not? I just want to find out if people are having trouble. I know Sal did.
I did not have trouble. I
Very
had
good.
a distraction.
That's all I wanted to make sure is you didn't have trouble.
Okay.
Thank you both for joining. The superintendent has hit us with the highlights of his budget. We have approved the minutes. If you do have a vote that you would like to add, if you've reviewed those minutes, we could add, or your choice whether you choose to vote on them or not. And then we're moving on. He has hit the highlights, which were on page 2 of the budget, and briefly described some of the wild card items that could change the budget, is what he highlighted. Maybe, Superintendent, you could just hit those quick 4 items.
Sure, be glad to. One is healthcare insurance due to change in personnel, but also how we budgeted it based on a memo that came out from the partnership plan. Also oil for heating and fuel for our buses. With what's happening on the world stage, things have gone up dramatically. And then also we're in the midst of trying to settle our non-certified contract. Accent on the word try.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think that'll be settled?
Well, we're in mediation now. As I was explaining, the non-certified union told us they wanted to go to arbitration. In all honesty, the language of the contract is agreed upon for the most part. The language is there. It's the dollars. They have agreed to, off the record, they have agreed to a 2.25% increase. And yet when they put the salaries down on paper, they blow through that 2.25, and we're asking, we agreed upon 2.25, you stay within that salary pool, we're fine. Somehow or other, they keep on coming up with figures that are larger than the 2.25. 2.25, when we put it on the table, was a little bit better than average. And the reason we did that is we have employees that in 2 years, if we kept it under that, would not make minimum wage. So we put the 2.25 as a little bit above average, but if you look at current settlements coming in, 2.25 is probably average now. Because with inflation starting to go, all new proposals or contracts are going to they're going to try to meet inflation.
This is Sal Luciano. I'm confused. Are you saying their 2.25% is different than your 2.25%?
Well, they agreed on 2.25, and then when we say, okay, I did a salary placement for them, and then they came back with a different proposal of salaries for each individual employee. And if I add that up, which I did, it blows through that 2.25% pool.
Oh, okay. All right. So
does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes.
So you're saying that they agreed to the 2.25 and then they didn't agree to it.
Correct.
Well said.
I was just confused because when you said, they agreed to 2.25 and then it's like, I could understand having difficulty in sometimes language is difficult, but 2.25% is pretty clear.
It is very clear. And they just keep on saying, no, we agreed to 2.25, but here's the salaries of everybody. And when you add up those salaries, it's above 2.25.
Do you have a TOK on the 2.25?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was all done off the record. They agreed to it. And that's what has been extremely frustrating in this negotiations, is that we have some TKOs on language, but not all. However, for the monetary deal, they sat at the table and said, "Oh yeah, that sounds good," and yet when we do it, it's not there.
Out of curiosity, just how much above 2.25 is it? Does it?
I would 2.75 to almost 3.
Okay, thank you.
And being under the MARB and also being under a 5-year projected plan, we need to stay to that.
I get.
Yeah.
I get because of inflation.
Right.
They wanted more, but if they agreed to the 2.25, then that's problematic.
Well, the other thing we've used, the MARB as, look, the board can give you a 10% raise, but it's not going by MARB, right? That would be rejected, and rightfully so. Some of their membership has said basically, the heck with MARB, we want what we can get, and we're trying to educate them.
Right. Well, thank you for that.
Not a problem.
As you mentioned, we do, of course, see and anticipated that the special ed, well, this says special ed budget has a reduction, but this one says that it doesn't. Oh, you're using grant funds. Is that why? When I look across the detailed budget, hold on.
If you look at it,
the line might not be lining up right when I'm going across. Sorry.
Right. So it's special ed for public is one line that increased.
Yes. And the other one decreased. Okay. So you let me know.
Private.
All right. I understand. Yep. And it is in your notes. I see it. And
is there a motion required to accept the report?
Usually we will make a recommendation that would, for consideration up to the MARB, is what we do in the subcommittee.
Recommend approval to the MARB, right?
Yes.
Remember, this budget is tentative because it hasn't gone to our Board of Finance yet.
Okay.
And it also, we haven't seen the cities either.
Okay.
So if this is above, it's a little bit above the 5-year plan number, but not a lot above the 5-year plan number. So we won't take action today, but we'll bring it back again.
Okay.
Any other questions though? Mark,
I'm all set.
you are all set.
But I did check the narrative, and I didn't see the exact number of students that are in those magnet school programs, special ed, and where there's increases. And if you could send that along to Julian, I'd appreciate it.
Be glad to. I also checked it and saw that they weren't there, so we will get those for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If we don't have any other questions, oh wait, one other thing we didn't talk about though, was your capital budget. We should do that.
Sure.
I see that you did include something.
We did, but with the board of Ed's permission, we probably will not look for the town to fund that.
Okay.
And the reason that we'll do that is, again, it's better to be lucky than good. We're running a surplus, and we should be able to pick up those things in our surplus and also give some money back to the town.
Thank you so much. That's good news.
Yeah, well, eventually my luck's gonna run out, so.
I think we'll just keep that luck running. Because Sprague is heading in the right direction, and I'm really happy to hear all of that. All the good work is paying off. All right, that's all I have for the budget. If nobody else has anything else, then we can move on to the next agenda item. Thank you, Superintendent.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
So we are looking for a status update on the next section, which is the policies, procedures, then the audit, the budget calendar, and ARPA funding. First Selectman, if you would like to give us an update in those areas, that would be helpful.
Sure. So on the financial policies and procedures, we've been working with the consultant, and we have a few final edits left to go, and we have scheduled a meeting with her the week of March 7th to go over those items. We anticipate that very shortly thereafter we'll have a final product to get approved by the boards, and that we'll be all set with that item. So if anybody has any questions on that.
Is that draft shared with the folks that are going to be obviously under the policies and procedures? Have you, obviously you haven't done any education prior to, but question is, how much of a surprise is this going to be for the employees regarding new policies and procedures?
It is, the employees that work under are aware that it's being done, and it's not really anything new. It's more just putting it on paper and memorializing what we're actually already doing.
Well, my suggestion, for what it's worth, is when you get to the 99th percentile, that I don't know about sharing it, but what may be clear to you may not be clear to the employee that is responsible for whatever policy. So just a cautionary tale to make sure that it's clear and precise and where everybody knows what's supposed to happen, not like another case we're dealing with.
Okay, thank you.
So that's just a little bit of a cautionary tale, but I'm very pleased to hear that you're along that in such a proper calendar.
And when you get to that final draft, maybe you could share it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All
So
right,
the next item is the audit.
the audit. We're in the final stages of the audit. There are a few items to button up, which are going to actually cause us to have to extend until March 31st, although we hope that we'll be able to finalize it before then, but that would be the time period. And then also at the same time, just to update you, as far as cash flow, a 6-month forecast is in the works. But just to let you know that we do review it bi-weekly, and we are in a good cash position, but the formal report is in the works.
Okay, thank you. And just for the MARB members to be aware that the extension request was discussed with myself and Julian, and we've made the secretary aware as well. So we'd rather be proactive than reactive and down to the wire of making a change and make sure that the final report is in good shape. So we were in favor of that. The budget calendar.
So the budget calendar, we've been trying to work together to try to be able to make it as easy as possible to work to be able to get the budget to the MARB. So our hope is to be able to simultaneously around March 25th get a draft budget to the Board of Finance and to the MARB subcommittee for review, to be able to then get input from them in time for the Board of Finance to bring it to public hearing with the townspeople and get their input somewhere in mid to later April. And then after that, get a semi-final version to the MARB in time for us to then bring it to town meeting in late May, early June, in that time frame.
Okay. Julian, does that align with our plan?
Yeah, so the goal is to have
By May 13th.
the MARB, the full MARB take action at the May meeting. That gives the town time to then do the town meeting and possibly also a referendum, but either a town meeting and or a referendum with sufficient time to get the tax bills out. So working backwards from the May 13th MARB meeting, what we came up with was the first selectman's recommended budget to the subcommittee and the Board of Finance at the same time, late March-ish, in time for the subcommittee to get its first look at on March 24th.
Okay.
And then proceeding from there. And we also talked about it makes the subcommittees and the MARB's review much easier if they're looking at the budget along with the 5-year plan, rather than trying to do it sequentially, doing one after the other. If they have both,
Yes.
I think it will really sort of facilitate the review and just kind of reiterating that. But we did talk about that when we were looking at the calendar.
Good. So I'll just piggyback off of that date for the superintendent. Since you have that collective bargaining underway, that the next subcommittee is focused for March 24th. If that contract could get to us by then, we do have a schedule. We will be having a scheduled meeting then.
I'm trying.
I know. Maybe somebody will listen to that.
You want to come down and help me?
It might be a lot more fun than some of the meetings I have to attend.
I hear you.
Matthew, you are laughing at me.
Crying with you.
Okay. And First Selectman, I have one other question about the audit that I didn't want to skip over. Has the auditors brought to your attention yet if there are any audit findings?
were a couple of minor things.
Mm-hmm.
We got the draft management letter this morning.
Okay.
And one of the items was maintenance of full trial balances for Board of Ed funds related to the cafeteria, ed grants, and student activity and scholarship. They do recognize that we are tracking them properly. However, they would like us to try and put together a trial balance. And when I was talking to our contact from the auditors, it seems as though he has prepared a worksheet that we will be able to carry forward in the following years. So that hopefully will take care of that. Because at the town, we have a piece, over at the school, they have a piece as well. It's just putting those two together for the auditors. So that's already been discussed. Next was evidence of approval on water and sewer invoices. They just want evidence to initials basically on invoices showing that they are approved. We were using, well, the authority was using the signatures on checks as their sign of approval. They just want to see an additional step. So that will be taken care of. And then the final one was funding for certain expenditures from the CNR fund. There was two projects. One was an emergency road repair, and then there was another one for a Paper Mill Pond Fish Passage project that was already basically in the works from prior administration that we were committed to, but both of those had no funding. So he did say that was not brought up for like a single audit finding. It's just going to be in the management letter. So we received this just right before this meeting, so we have to prepare our responses for them, but it wasn't anything, no surprises.
Okay. All right, thank you. ARPA funding.
ARPA funding, the Local Council of Governments has recently hired a consultant for the whole group. And we are going to be scheduling time with her to assist us with our plan. That was the purpose for them hiring somebody, because there's a lot of that goes into it that smaller towns in particular don't have the manpower to be able to do. But some of the areas that we were looking at were our cybersecurity and technology, and some water and sewer upgrades. We have a pretty old structure with our water and sewer, so there's some things along those lines that we're looking at including. We did hold a public meeting for input, and there were some good ideas of things perhaps to include into our open space or things like that folks would like to see. So it was good, and they also agreed with some of our ideas that we already had pulled together. So that's where we've gotten so far.
Very good.
I don't know if how much ARPA funding you're getting or what have you, but on the board side, I noticed that the capital expenditures, the forecast up to 2040 or whatever the year is quite substantial. So one might take a gander at that to see if you can save something now by looking at that possible capital expenditure in the future, and if there's any ARPA funding for that can be in accordance with the law can help in that area. You might want to consider that, take something off the agenda for you in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion that you want to bring to our attention?
There is one other item I just wanted to bring to your attention. During one of the Paper Mill Pond Dam inspection, there's a sinkhole there. So then the Deep Dam Safety Group came down and did their own inspection. So we have gotten a letter of, we have to get a new, another engineering firm in to do a further inspection, and we've got a group of different things that we have to do that are probably going to be pretty expensive. We have to monitor the sinkhole. There's a variety of items. We have applied, and we don't know whether anything will come of it, but to the National Resources Conservation Services. They have a watershed program, so we've applied for some planning assistance through them. At Deep's suggestion. They said, you know, they might be able to do something through that. So we're not sure where that's going to go or how much of money that's going to incur, but we need to address it and see if we can determine what's coming on. I know they have been in contact with OPM as well.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up at this meeting. I think that we definitely want to see if there are grants out there at the state that can help with, could help with this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with this area, but Julian, I don't know if you are.
No, not specifically.
Yeah.
Do you know what the turnaround time is on hearing back on the National Conservation Resources Grant?
No, that it was really short notice, and the request went out mid-January, so I don't know what the turnaround time is on that. All I got was acknowledgement that they received our request.
Okay. All right, so we'll continue to hear more about this as we keep it on the agenda for the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other related business for us to discuss today? Julian, I don't think we have anything.
No.
Okay.
Then a motion to adjourn is in order?
Thank you, Sal. Can we get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Christine. Oh, all in favor? Just
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're all in favor. Thank you for your time, everybody. Thank you for the town and coming forward with this, and appreciate